I've been feeling pretty low recently, so I've been doing something that we all do to help us feel better in difficult times. Doom scrolling. And the fruit of all of my hard labor at the infinite scroll factory has of course led me to feeling much more uninspired than I was before, exhausted, and still really low. So in order to get myself out of this little doom scrolling hole that I managed to wander into, I have decided that I need to take some serious action and do the exact opposite of doom scrolling. What's the opposite of doom scrolling, Carly? Great question. I believe the opposite of doom scrolling is actually sitting in a meadow. Now, some of you might be like, the opposite of doom scrolling is just not doom scrolling, and that is a really good point, but I need more than just subtracting this habit from my life. I actually want to point my attention to something more productive, more joyous, more encouraging to my life. I want to actually fill the void with something good. So I'm turning to nature as my inspiration. Oh my goodness, I forgot to mention, I don't even live near a meadow, so I am actually not going to sit in a meadow, but I'm going to sew a blouse that feels like sitting in a meadow. I feel like that's a really nice happy medium. Okay, let me show you my project inspiration because I'm really excited about this one. Now, because I've been feeling so uninspired, I am not messing around with self-drafting anything at all. I am working with a pattern so that it is really easy to begin the project. And the pattern that I'm going to be working with today is called the Panini pleated shirt, and it is by Sew Like Shop, and they kindly gifted it to me last year. So I've been really looking forward to making this pattern for quite some time, and today I will embark on this journey. I already went through the timely process of getting all of my bins of scraps out and selecting every single piece of fabric that felt meadow-like to me. So let me show you the color palette I'm working with. You know what's wild is that when I'm feeling uninspired, my instinct is to look online for more inspiration. I just want to find people who are really creative, look at what they're making, go on Pinterest, scroll, try and find something that I want to make. But this time around, I've just been feeling like I'm so tired of looking for inspiration on the internet. I think I just want to be making clothes that feel like a story or a feeling or a memory. Like I want to put on a shirt and feel like, ooh, this is my dolphin shirt. It feels like a dolphin. Or I just made this skirt and my inspiration was, I really love stripes and grids. And so I'm just gonna do something stripy and gritty. I don't know. I know it's harder to work with more vague inspiration, like I wanna feel like stars or the leaves on a tree rustling through the wind. But I think having a more vague inspiration source can sometimes be very freeing as well because you get to create your own narrative and story along the way. I'm gonna stop talking, I'm gonna show you my fabrics. Hopefully I have enough here to create my whole blouse. A lot of the colors that I was drawn to were these sort of neutral, peachy, yellow, blue, mint, purple vibe fabrics. I know that was a lot of colors, but you know. And I think something that's really exciting about working with lots of different fabrics at once is getting to use different textures and things that have visual interest, like this little piece of fabric here. It wouldn't be my style to make a whole blouse out of something like this, but if it's a patch, it's just a nice little window into this style, which excites me. Some fabrics might not make their way in, but I just wanted to curate a vibe and then I can see where it takes me. Like, is that not just the most adorable little thing? I don't even know what it is. I also found this in my scrap stash, a hand quilted hexagon applique. I think this might be lovely to use. Look at this. Look at this. So cute. I have some silk dupion that might be really nice to use somewhere. Maybe some lace. Anyway, that's my meadow. That's my meadow. If this is your first time tuning in, I love sewing patchwork pieces. I think it's a really delightful process getting to find all of these fabrics that feel like they're friends and see if I can blend them together in a way that feels right. Don't worry, I don't get too technical when I pick out fabrics. I really just vibe it out, and if something feels wrong, it's gone. If something feels right, it's in. Anyway, the first step of my project is I need to patchwork all of my textiles into the pattern piece size, and then I can construct the blouse. I think I'm going to leave all of these more applique-like pieces out, and I might end up hand stitching them on top at the end as a little decorative detail. Let's make this textile. It's really weird because I have this little microphone on, and usually when the camera is far away, I just project, but I have to keep it quiet and reserved now that I'm microphoned like a professional. Working with scrap fabric is one of the greatest things ever. That's actually all I had to say. It's one of the greatest things ever. First step before I construct any patchworking is I'm going to iron out all of my scraps. They are all crumpled and odd looking, and having them ironed is just gonna make everything a lot easier. If you know me, I never skip ironing when I'm sewing. I genuinely believe it is one of the easiest things you can do that takes your sewing to a completely different level. I think a really classic beginner move when you're starting to sew is you just want to sew fast and you want to complete projects really quickly. And sometimes that means skimping out on steps that actually are really helpful in making sure that your garment looks good. So if you're just beginning out sewing, I highly recommend press your seams, iron your fabric. It will take your garment from looking good to looking great, and it's such an easy thing to do. Anyone can iron. That's just like the Ratatouille chef. Anyone can cook.
What do I always say?
Anyone can iron. Now that all of my scraps are pressed, I'm going to be building up my textile by sewing fabric right sides together, overlocking the edge, pressing it, and then you could potentially top stitch it, but I don't think that I will for this shirt. All of my scraps are odd sizes, so I'm just gonna be cutting them to different shaped rectangles and squares and following my heart. I have noticed that if you do overly pleated designs with very patchworked textiles like this skirt, it can become a little bit bulky. So although I want to really get into the patchwork spirit, I am going to try and keep it fairly tame, just so it doesn't get too bulky. We'll see if I actually commit to that. I was really missing my pegboard initially, but then Elijah gave me the idea that I could just hammer nails into all of the furniture that we own, and then I can just put things like my snips and scissors and threads and bobbins on them. We're renting, so we can't drive nails into the wall, but our furniture, that's fine. Kind of great. Oh, this is very cozy over here with the iron. Hey everyone, welcome to the next day. I spent most of the afternoon creating all of my patchwork textiles, and now they are prepared and ready to be sewn into a top. The silly thing about making patchwork is that it feels like when you finish the patchworking, you're most of the way through the project, even though I literally haven't started construction, so that's fun. This is the vibe. I have a bunch of rectangles that are slightly larger than my pattern pieces, and the colors are everything in between cream, white, different shades of yellow, beige, lilac, blue, green. Everything that feels like a meadow or a garden is in these. Predominantly though, I would say they're mainly white because I wanted to keep some sort of freshness and neutralness to the piece. Who would have thunk you would hear those words come out of my mouth? I'm growing up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put my pattern pieces on top of each of these rectangles and I'm going to cut them out. The main issue that this imposes on my work is creating some very weak seams. When you cut through any backstitching, you may encounter some seams that want to pull apart, which is terrible if you are constructing a garment that you want to be nice and strong. So to ensure structural integrity of my seams, I can do one of two things. The first thing is I can go over every single seam and backstitch it and just slowly but surely make sure everything is secure. That's a great option. A slightly lazier option, which I think I might be doing today, is turning the stitch length down to a nice small stitch length, like 1, 1.5 or 2, and then just going over where these seams are and backstitching a few times. It's a little less thorough, but I still find it to do quite a good job. Ultimately, you just don't want your seams splitting, because if they split once the top or the garment is constructed, it's much harder to fix later on. It's better to do it right at this stage. Let's make this thing. Also, it's literally 9:30 at night. I had this delusional idea that I can get this done before midnight. Let's see if I can do this. I think I will sew my buttonholes and buttons tomorrow, but everything else, let's see. Yeah, I think that's the way I want it. Front bodice. Perfect. Bam. 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 Looks lovely. Okay, double it and give it to the next person. The next person is me, by the way. Doo, 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 doo. Something critical to remember when you're doing a mirrored pattern is to make sure you mirror that bad boy. It is the saddest realization when you realize that you've cut out 2 of the same side of a pattern piece. Let me just say that much. Been there. Guys, in the comment section, I would love to know what's your saddest sewing mishap to ever have happened to you. I want the juicy gossip. I'm talking you cut no seam allowance out of the most expensive fabric of your life, or you finished your dress and then you overlocked through one of the most imperative seams. Tell me everything. I haven't sewn someone else's pattern in so long. I feel like I'm kind of low-key really bad at cutting out patterns now. Whatever, it'll do the job. It will do the job. Bam, bam, bam. Okay. Fire. Looks awesome. Time to blitz these seams on a nice small stitch length so they don't get any funny ideas about splitting. Check that. Pretty good. It's doing the job. It's doing the job. With all of my seams secured, I can now mark out where all of the pleats are going to go. Now let me spill the tea on my favorite fabric markers. I have tried quite a few things over the years, and I do use a variety of different tools for different jobs. I do enjoy a good old pencil. Sometimes you need a pencil, sometimes you need different colors depending on the fabric. I also love tailor's chalk, although I always drop it and break it. Both of these are from the brand Clover. I do recommend. However, my favorite thing to use is a regular friction marker. This is not necessarily from a fabric store or a sewing store. I just get mine from Officeworks or any sort of stationery store. It literally blew my mind when I had the realization that friction markers need heat to erase the marking. That's kind of what friction can generate.
Friction generates heat.
So if you put your iron on top of your friction marker marking, it should in theory get rid of it. I have heard rumors that in cold climates, this can resurface. So if you live somewhere cold, maybe beware. But if you live in a hot climate like Australia, a friction marker might be awesome for you. I love it so much. I have tried air erasable markers and they're fine. I think they're kind of mid. My least favorite thing is if you put a marking down and then you come back to it sometime later in the project and then you remember it's gone because the air erased it. So sometimes good, sometimes bad. Like most things, just have a play and see what tool you prefer. There's lots of different options for lots of different purposes, but my personal favorite is the friction marker and it's what I'm going to be using for today. They're also just affordable, which is good, you know, because it's not like an actual sewing specific tool. I can't do that. I'm gonna break a rule. Boom, 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 boom. Ciao, 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 ciao. Slay. Beautiful. Gorgeous. I probably should mark the bottom as well. Probably should. Bam, 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 bam. Okay. Prepare the back bodice pleats. Following the diagram below, create the box pleat at the center back. Okay. I have to say I think some of the best sewing instructions are coming from indie pattern designers. They're often full of really good diagrams, lots of tips and tricks, thorough instructions, and also just some personal experience interwoven. I think some of us may have had negative experiences learning to sew because it was very common to use those tissue paper patterns where the instructions were never enough. You feel me? I think chances are we weren't bad at sewing, the instructions were just not helpful. If you've had that experience and you've never tried an indie pattern, you have to check them out. They're really doing things right. They're sewists writing and designing for sewists. Chef's kiss. Okay, let's do these pleats. I think that's fine now. Awesome. Before I move forward with any of the construction, I did just want to let you know that I will be doing some things a little bit differently to the Panini shirt instructions. I think I don't want to edge stitch along the edges of the pleats. That's just personal preference. I kind of like when pleats just are free and flying in the wind. Also think I want to do exposed buttons rather than the hidden button placket, and that's just because I really like the appearance of buttons. And I have a feeling there might be a few ways where my construction preferences differ to the instructions, and I just wanted to let you know that in case you're curious. I might not be the best person to follow if you want a detailed breakdown of how to make this, but there is a really wonderful video instructional by Sew Like Shop. So if you're making the Panini shirt, I highly recommend sewing along with her video. I'll link it below. But for me, I'm just vibing, doing what I want, roughly following the design. Also, I just needed to say, if you are choosing to patchwork and you're doing pleats, it should be noted that patchworking this textile is going to make the crispness of your pleats suffer. It's always just going to be slightly more bulky because you have all of these seams. I think it's totally worth it, but it is worth knowing about just in case you don't like that look. I wouldn't call it bulky, but there are more seams to deal with. The more you know. I think it's so worth it for the effect of patchwork beautifulness. So don't let me dissuade you. Okay, let's actually work instead of just chatting, hey? Yeah, facing away from the front placket. That should be right. It's like a beautiful, serene, rainy night. So I could be doing some peaceful sewing, but for some reason I just feel like it's a race and I want to complete this as fast as humanly possible. So there is no zen going on right now, and that is okay. I'm about to blitz these pleats. It just doesn't want to. Yes, good. Okay. Bam. Cool. I am now just going to baste all of the pleats in place so I can continue to work without fear of them moving. Awesome. All right, my front and back bodice pieces are coming together. I just don't feel like I can do the button placket and the collar right this minute. So my productive procrastination is I think I'm just going to do some of the sleeves. Elijah's making me a hot chocolate. What's the time, guys? 11:08. We're doing kind of good. Anyway, yeah, taste breaker, sleeve time. Oh my goodness. I'm really glad that you guys liked the hot chocolate tutorial. Oh, that's a really good one. I compliment the chef every time in the hopes that I continue getting hot chocolate. How many marshmallows is an absurd amount of marshmallows to put into your hot chocolate? 3, 4, 5? When does it become more marshmallow than chocolate? Personally, for me, I enjoy 2 marshmallows. Sleeves are done. Now I just have to be a grown-up and do the button, placket, and the collar stand and the collar. That's not many things left though, to be fair. And I'm just choosing not to think about buttons and buttonholes right now.
To achieve the visible buttons, I just used the left button placket pattern piece for both sides of the blouse, and that worked absolutely perfectly. It didn't make any difference to where the collar would attach, it just made the buttons visible instead of hidden.
There's 2 yoke pieces here. It's this one and there's this one, and I believe just one, the outer back, which is that. I believe. Right sides. Yeah, okay, so I think it's like this. I think it's like this. And it's like this. Yeah. Stitch with a 1 centimeter seam allowance. Okay. Hopefully this is right. What's going to happen, I believe, is that all of the shirt is here in the middle, and then my other yoke is going to come on top of all of that fabric, and it's going to get sewn together here. And that should encase all of the raw edges. It should. I'll just pin that there. It feels fake and it feels scary, but I am pretty sure it's correct. I'm like 70% sure. Okay, That should be good. And then I think the trick with the burrito method is trying to stitch over that existing line. Should all be beautiful and clean, in theory. Definitely pinned this on the wrong side, but that's okay. Let's see if that worked. I should be able to pull the bodice through the neckline. I'm getting to the point in the evening where it's like, mistakes could be made. I should just go to sleep, but I'm just sewing, man. I'm sewing. Okay, that worked, so I'm gonna take that W and celebrate it. Yeah, that's awesome. Using the burrito method here means that all of the seams are perfectly encased on the inside, which is sensational. If you weren't patchworking and you French seamed the sleeves, I think that would mean all of your seams would be encased perfectly. Love luxury finishes like French seams and, you know, like beautiful, whatever that is. I'm gonna press that. Gorgeous. That's looking gorgeous. I just had to take a moment to try this on because it's the first time that it's starting to resemble a shirt. I'm loving the vibe. I am a little bit concerned about how high this neckline is. I don't know if I've done this wrong. I'm also concerned that because I did my own placket situation that the collar isn't going to fit right. So though I'm nearing the end of constructing this shirt, I am nervous about the last steps. But that's okay. We'll figure it out. It's feeling cute, so that's good. It's 12:12, by the way. So I didn't finish by 12, but maybe if I wasn't filming, I could have. Maybe.
I kind of just ended up whispering for half of this video because Elijah was asleep and I didn't want to wake him. So I apologize for my whisper audio. And I also apologize if any of the audio is a bit weird. I'm trying out a new microphone. I'm just trying to get used to it and see what I like. So thanks for sticking with me, even if it's a bit weird. I'm working on it. You guys are the best. Okay.
I haven't done an update in a hot second. I have attached the sleeves and they look good. And then I just attached all of the collar and the collar stand before realizing that the interfacing was just on the outside of the collar. I don't know how I didn't see that until literally the last moment, but I'm taking that as my sign that it is truly time to go to sleep. And I'm just gonna pick this up in the morning. I think it's like 1:20 a.m. So yeah. To be fair, it's really hard to see the interfacing on this pale yellow fabric, so I'm not going to beat myself up about it. At least I had a trial run of the collar and I'm pretty sure that it fits nicely. I didn't try it on, but it seemed to have worked, so I can just give this another crack tomorrow. Wow, that is such rookie sewing. Oh well, I'm going to wrap it up for tonight and I'm going to see you tomorrow for the buttons, buttonholes, and the rest of the collar stand. And the hem. And then we're done. Yeah. Hey, it's the next day. I've already redone my collar, so all of the interfacing is on the inside now. Awesome. And you could just machine stitch this and it would look roughly like a stitch in the ditch or a top stitch on the right side, but I think I'm just gonna do it by hand. I love when there's a yoke, so I have an inside piece of material so I can stitch to that and the stitches will not be visible from the right side. I just think it looks really nice and neat and I really like having the extra control when I get around to this more fiddly section. So yeah, I'm gonna stitch that by hand. I also tried rolling up the hem 1 centimeter and then 1 centimeter again, but because my patchworking is quite delicate, I find that if there are seams near the hemline, it just doesn't like to roll up very evenly. So I think I'm just gonna do a hem facing. It will be better for my patchwork. And all that's left after that are the buttons and buttonholes. Okay, let's do this collar and the hem facing. While I stitch my collar down, I wanted to let you know about my Patreon, just in case you're interested in more content from me or you would like to support my art, which is so sweet. I've been doing Patreon for 20 months now, so there's quite a big backlog of content that just sits there and it's available to you the second you sign up. Every month I do a long form video called Craft Club where I'll bring a work in progress, you guys bring a work in progress and we craft together. I answer all of the patrons' questions, shout out to my patrons, you guys are the best, and we just talk about creativity, inspiration, sewing, technical stuff, everything like that. And I usually mention my favorite ice cream flavor of the month as well. In addition to that, the other piece of content that I do every month is called a pattern breakdown, where I will design a garment and then I will provide a detailed PDF of all of the steps involved in self-drafting that garment. Here are some of the examples of the garments that I've created for the pattern breakdown. Every now and then I'll take a really popular style and I'll try and deconstruct that just out of curiosity, but almost all of these are my original designs, and all of the PDFs have either diagrams or pictures to help you along your way if you're interested in self-drafting. It should be noted there are no actual PDF pattern pieces. It's all about self-drafting and constructing it. But I try and create pieces that you can achieve with a simple bodice block or rectangular pattern pieces, more or less. Anyway, that's my Patreon. There's no pressure to sign up at all, but if it sounds like something that you'd be interested in, I'll just leave the link in the description box below. And you can join Sparkly Humans, which is what I called my patrons. Hey, Sparkly Humans. All right, that's enough of that. I'm almost on my collar. Slay! I'm a big fan of a hem facing, by the way. I think they're very classy and quite simple to make too. Follow me. That should be enough. If you have a piece of fabric long enough, you don't need to create your own long strip of facing, but I did not have that, so I'll just sew them together. And now I'm going to sew the facing on right sides together with the bottom of the garment. Because I've already finished this edge, I'm just going to tuck it in a little bit here, and that will ensure everything is nice and neat on the inside. Wonderful. I want to preserve as much length as I can to this blouse because it's quite cropped, so I'm going to be stitching at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Oh, I didn't check if this is the right way, and it's not. Oopsies. Something that I will always do when I'm doing a hem facing is understitching, which means I'm on the wrong side of my garment here. The seam allowance is pressed down towards the hem facing, and I'm going to be stitching that down to the hem facing just next to this line of stitching. This helps the fabric to fold over to the wrong side really nice and neatly. I highly recommend not skipping this step. I'll zoom in even more. There's my seam allowance, here's my hem facing, and the stitch line's here, and my needle is just to the right of it. And I really like to actively pull these pieces of fabric apart just to make sure that they are really laying flat. Awesome. Now the hem facing is going to get folded up this way, but firstly I just need to press my seam allowance down on the other side so that everything is nice and neat. And now with that seam allowance pressed under, I can press the whole hem facing to the wrong side of the garment. And because we understitched, it looks awesome. It looks very good. And as I said, I do generally find this to be much less disruptive when I've got a lot of patchworking going on. I think it's a good option instead of a regular turned hem. Rolled hem, that's what they call it. Rolling, rolling, rolling on the river. Do, 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 do. And now I can just stitch this down. Hem facing complete. I think it is so pretty. Okay, we're almost done. Let's pick out some buttons. Maybe I would do a button placket if I didn't have cute buttons, but I have a large array of vintage buttons given to me by my grandmother. So let's just say that picking buttons is one of my favorite things to do, because I got some goods. Okay, let's go. There are some options. This is my favorite tin of buttons. Okay, that one is amazing. Just straight off the bat, incredible. It's a bit dark, too dark. I love that one. I'd like to find a more yellow one. It's look a bit big, but there is a yellow one here. Okay, that could be good. All right. That one could be great. What do you think about these buttons? Especially the most controversial one for me is this being sort of like a feature button. It's a bit unusual, that top one. But it's also like kind of cool.
I quite like it actually.
It's like a little treasure. I'm not sure if I'm gonna need this many buttons. I kind of feel like I'm probably gonna need this many buttons.
Yes.
Do any of them seem wrong to you?
No, they look good.
Yeah?
I like the buttons you use.
Even this one?
No, I was gonna say I really like that one.
And this order?
Yeah.
Great. I was instinctively going to say that's much better, but now I'm not so sure. Because now it's feeling very belly button-y, that one there.
Too belly button-y.
Maybe. Yeah, I think I like it more like that.
Yeah.
Oh, they look like candies. Yeah, great. Cool. Thank you. I found these pieces of fabric and lace when I was getting all of my scraps, and I just thought, oh, they're so perfect. I think the bow is definitely going to go center back here. I think that just feels right. I kind of feel like the lace should just go around the arm. Just one of them, that. And then it's just deciding, do I want this to sit on the other arm or should it sit right above the pleats? Because I think that is extremely cute. I also have this incredible hexagonal hand-stitched piece that feels so aligned with the color scheme, but I'm just not sure where it should go because it's quite large. I could unpick it so it's just one hexagon and stitch it on the other sleeve. That's actually kind of a good idea. Just don't think it has a place if it's this big. Okay, I'm gonna try that. This might seem criminal to some, but I think if you're repurposing something that was otherwise going in the bin, you're allowed to get a little bit crazy with it. Perfect. I think it will go just a little bit chaotically placed like here on the sleeve. I think that's perfect. And I will hand stitch all of these details down because I think that these details are asking to be hand stitched. They're so delicate and sweet. They don't deserve the touch of a machine. That's perfect there. That is quite literally perfect. And I might just tuck in the edges of this. It's a good idea. I actually think it looks best if it's just left with the raw edges. There's something very endearing about this. I tried folding it in on itself, but it just didn't look the same. I will respect your wishes, patch, to be left untouched. Wonderful. Guys, I'm almost done the shirt. I'm loving the addition of all of these little patches. I think they're so sweet, and I'm just gonna enjoy the rest of the afternoon hand stitching them all on. I think hand stitches are just gonna look really nice, and I'm gonna use a really small whip stitch. After that, I'll sew on the buttonholes and the buttons. I could do machine buttonholes, but I think I want to do hand stitched. I just really like the look of them. They're quite charming, and I'm pretty obsessed with seeing how neat I can make them be. If you would like a tutorial on how to do a hand stitched buttonhole, let me know. I'd be very happy to do that because I love them. I think they're awesome. Anyway, that's basically the project done. Feels really good to get something under my belt that's just fun and whimsical, and it was just nice to make. I loved making this pattern. I think the Panini shirt is an awesome design. It's very accessible because it has an amazing video tutorial. It's extremely size inclusive, and I think there's lots of ways you could customize it. You could add puff sleeves, you could do the long sleeve option, you could add more fabric and have it be a dress, you could do the hidden buttons, you could do exposed buttons, lots of ideas. And a style like this is just so easy to wear, I think. Love, 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 love. Anyway, it's been an absolute joy, guys. Thanks for hanging out with me. I think that's the end of the video. As always, let me know how your projects are going. You know I love to hear about all of the details, and if there's anything else exciting happening in your life, let me know. Is anyone graduating school? Getting a little puppy? I don't know. Let me hear your good news. Let's fill the comment section with good news. And without further ado, let's just go to the montage where I show you my completed sitting in a meadow inspired blouse. Thanks so much for hanging out with me, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Sending lots of love. Bye. Also, I really hope my new microphone worked because I have no confidence that it was good, so fingers crossed. Okay, bye for real. Let's high five. Did you guys do it?